Now to our other breaking headline, the massive search underway for the man who shot and killed the UnitedHealthcare CEO at point-blank range. We're 36 hours into the urgent manhunt, and at this time, no one is in police custody. But we are getting more clues into the investigation. Take a look at these images released of what police are describing as a person of interest. He's wanted for questioning in connection to the targeted attack. That murder unfolding in busy Midtown Manhattan yesterday morning. The shooter, you see him here, methodically hunting down CEO Brian Thompson just as he was headed to an investors meeting. Police revealing today that the killer left behind a message. The words, quote, deny, defend, and depose, written on shell casings found at the scene. We're going to break down the possible meaning in just a moment. All of this as we piece together the suspect's movements. We know he bought a water bottle and protein bars at a Starbucks just before the shooting. He then made his way to the Hilton Hotel where he shot Thompson and then took off on an electric bike into Central Park. But now police are directing their attention to a hostel where they believe this person of interest was staying. Detectives reportedly searching one of the rooms there. And the information just in tonight, we're just learning new details about where the suspect may have traveled from and how he got here to New York. NBC's Sam Brock has the latest.
New images tonight show the full face of a hooded man the NYPD is calling a person of interest, wanted for questioning in connection with Wednesday's ambush and early morning killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A law enforcement source confirming to NBC News the images were captured at this hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side, where, according to an eyewitness, the man in the photos shared a room with two strangers and checked out on Wednesday. One guest, who says she did not share the same room, saw police arrive last night around 6:30.
It makes you second guess who you're actually staying in a hostel with, so it's quite scary that we could have been in the same room.
The search for a killer hinging on an emerging network of crucial camera images, as police are now probing whether this Nest video, taken less than 15 minutes after the murder, could be the shooter. The footage showing the rider on a bike just outside of Central Park, 30 blocks north of the scene of the crime, where Wednesday a gunman approached the 50-year-old CEO walking toward an investor conference alone at 6:45 in the morning and gunned down the father of two, firing shots into his back and leg right in front of the Midtown Hilton Hotel. Video obtained by the New York Times also shows a person resembling the shooter walking roughly 175 feet from the scene of the crime 10 minutes before Thompson was shot, appearing to talk on the phone. Clint Watts is a former FBI special agent.
Knowing that the shooter was on the phone talking to somebody else definitely changes the way the investigation goes. Possibly someone knew the shooting was about to happen, or he was maybe calling someone for the last time, or it could be part of a larger plot.
Shell cases from the shooting, now also a key focal point of the investigation. Overnight, a senior New York City law enforcement official briefed on the investigation, telling NBC that the three casings recovered on scene had the words deny, defend, and depose written on them, a possible reference to a 2010 book critical of the insurance industry. There are also new revelations about the minutes before the murder, with an official telling NBC the gunman not only stopped at a Starbucks near the crime scene, but also bought several items, including a water bottle and 2 energy bars, which were then discarded.
The Starbucks purchases are a great opening for law enforcement to get on top of who the perpetrator is. It could be some sort of physical evidence, a fingerprint, maybe even some sort of DNA that they can trace.
The targeted killing now raising new questions across the insurance industry about security, with Thompson, a highly paid executive in a sector frequently facing frustration and even outrage, walking alone from his nearby hotel. Recent corporate statements from UnitedHealth don't reveal personnel security expenses for executives. The company hasn't responded to questions about what resources were or were not deployed for Thompson. It comes after his wife, Paulette, telling NBC News Wednesday there had been some threats against her husband, adding basically, I don't know, a lack of coverage, I don't know details. In the family's hometown outside Minneapolis, the police department told NBC News they had no record of any such reports, as the staggering and still unfolding murder and manhunt has left a city and industry stunned.
Okay, Sam Brock joins Top Story tonight live from outside that hostel in New York City. Sam, talk to us about this new information that's just come in, the details about how the suspect got to New York City and where he was traveling from.
Yeah, Tom, this is pretty fascinating. So 3 senior law enforcement officials tell NBC they are now operating under the belief the suspect came from Atlanta to New York on a Greyhound bus, Tom, arriving November the 24th. So there's a number of important pieces of information here. First of all, the passenger ticket list, if they're able to find a name there that matches up with some form of identification police already have. It's not clear if they've identified the suspect so far or not. And we do know that just with respect to this hostel, it appears that he used a fake ID. But also November 24th, that was 10 to 11 days before this crime was committed. The staging, the planning, what kind of information can be gleaned from that? And then did he come from Atlanta? Is there a whole thread of the suspect's background that now needs to be explored there as well? So many layers to this, a crucial piece of information coming in, Tom, late tonight.
Yeah, and it sounds like police may know now who they're looking for. All right, Sam, we appreciate all that. To break down the latest evidence we have in this case and where that manhunt goes from here, I want to welcome back John Monahan, a retired captain with the New York Police Department. John, great to see you. He's also the author of a series of detective novels. His latest is The Guns of Antwerp, NYPD Takes Boston. All right, John, we thank you again. So we're going to go through all the new clues we've gotten tonight. We want to start with what I think maybe is the biggest piece of evidence today, along with those images. Let's start with the bullets, right? Inscribed on the bullet casings: deny, defend, depose. I have 2 questions. First, what do you think these words mean, number 1? And number 2, what does it tell you that the killer wrote something on the shell casings?
A lot of planning. As we heard there, he's been there for a while. He put a lot of planning into this. I'm baffled by the idea that he expected these bullets to be on our crime scene. These are unfired bullets. They only get ejected and land on the ground when you rack the gun to clear a jam. You don't go into a shooting expecting a jam. I did not see it on the video that he took them out of his pocket and dropped them, but those bullets are inside the magazine of the gun. The only way they get produced onto the floor of our crime scene is when he racks that gun 3 times, which he did do to clear a jam. So he puts these words on the bullets and thinks maybe they end up in the crime scene, maybe they don't. Doesn't make any sense. This word, depose, is not from the title of the book. The other 2 are. I would start looking at people who have been sat for depositions recently in the healthcare thing, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's a lot of planning.
But how do you even write on a bullet casing? I mean, is that something people do?
You can etch it. That's time consuming and it's very, difficult. You can get a permanent marker.
But is he sending a message to people like you? I mean, is he sending a message to investigators saying, I don't know, dropping clues?
Tom, I tell you what, it could be that. It could be a subterfuge to get us to go in that direction if the motive was in another direction. There's a lot of moving parts in each silo of this event. There's the personal, the professional. And,
The other big piece of evidence, right? Police releasing these images. We want to show them to our viewers, show them to you. Now, police are using the term person of interest. From what we understand, this is protocol by the NYPD. In some cases, they've been saying this is the suspect. In this case, they're calling this person a person of interest here. Talk to me about why they released these 2 photos. One shows him smiling, one frowning or not smiling. What does this tell us, and why do they release these?
Well, we're hoping someone will identify him, not from passing him on the street here in New York, but someone in his life that knows him. That's a face that there's probably 50 people in the world right now that are looking at that picture, and a light bulb goes off, says, I know that man from somewhere.
Okay.
So it's very helpful. He's a person of interest, not a suspect, for a number of reasons. We're not certain 100% that it's him. Yeah. That's a different jacket. I believe it's a different backpack than the Starbucks pictures. It seems like it's him.
You're noticing differences, you think?
I do see some differences, but there's enough similarities to consider him a person of interest.
Okay, just before we go to our next thing, which is going to be a map, I do want to ask you, they know when he got here, they know where he came from, they know how long he's been here, they have these. Do you think they know who this person is?
Not yet.
You still think they don't know who he is?
Not yet. They're close.
They're close?
Atlanta could be a subterfuge, too.
Okay.
I don't know. You want to take a Greyhound, it depends on.
Right.
From Minnesota, you got to go through Chicago, Cleveland, and Buffalo. Did he go to Atlanta on purpose? I don't know.
Let's go to our map now. I want to show you this because we've learned some more things about where he was at. This is where the shooting takes place. This is the hostel where he was staying, right? It's about 50 blocks north on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Does this tell you anything at all? He's staying at a hostel again, 50 blocks from the scene of the shooting.
Well, the best way to get from point A to point B here would be by bicycle right through Central Park.
Fastest way.
Fastest way, right through Central Park. There are exits, 85th Street, 90th, 100th Street. Once you pass 100th Street, you got to go up to 110. So the best way to get there would be by bicycle through the park.
He may have used a fake ID. He paid with cash. That he's staying at a hostel. Does that tell you something different?
He's from out of town.
Uh-huh.
That's the first thing I think of. He's from out of town.
Okay.
Now you mentioned the bus from Atlanta. That makes sense. And the hostel, I mean, the nature of a hostel is such that, like your first bullet there, you know, people have stayed in hostels. They bunk you up into a room with others. That doesn't mean he's connected to these men.
Yeah.
They have been interviewed, from what I understand, and cleared.
Right.
So that's not really...
Yeah, he was staying with two other guests. We don't think they're connected. At least police haven't told us that yet. But, I mean, they're going to be questioning them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Earlier today, we also got this Nest video I want to play for our viewers as well. They may have seen this. Police believe this may be the suspect. He's on that bicycle. He's going from 85th Street, Central Park West. Looks like he's likely heading further west. What does this tell you, if anything? You
know, this is the 85th Street exit from Central Park. So if he came up from 59th Street, I don't think he's a New Yorker. He's an out-of-towner. He's staying at a hostel.
Yeah.
Should have stayed in the park till 100th Street. Yeah. Or at least 97th Street. But he came out here at 85th. He's heading to Columbus. Next block is Amsterdam, and then it's north to 104th Street.
No longer has the backpack. What does that tell you?
I'm not convinced. Tom, I'm not convinced it's him. Does it look like a city bike? Look at the tail.
Apparently, they've gotten rid of the city bike thing.
So then, what, did he rob someone? We don't have a robbery report.
The backpack, if that is him, he ditched it somewhere, possibly.
If he ditched that backpack, I can tell you this: in Central Park, we'd have found it.
Okay.
The cops have scoured every inch of that park. Every blade of grass has been checked.
Okay.
I'm not convinced that's him. It may well be. This is the direction he'd be going in, but...
Okay, let's look at this other one. This is video that the New York Times has obtained. It's him walking near the crime scene. Just before it, he appears to be on a cell phone at the time. Now, obviously, there's two things could be happening here. He could be speaking to someone. It could be fake. He could just be posing. If he is talking to someone, can the police figure out, can they zero in, is there that type of technology from cell phone towers, what the number was, what the cell phone was? Is that possible?
There is. I understand it's a burner phone.
Okay. That's what you understand?
Yes,
okay.
I've heard that. But you can still ping the tower that it went to and take it beyond that as well. You know, last night, Tom, I mentioned the fact that this kid had intelligence information. How did he know when to leave the Starbucks to approach? In other words, how do you know when that... This could be very germane to the investigation, but it could also be he paid someone $100 in a hotel to say, tell me when a man in room such and such leaves the hotel. Yeah. We don't even know who he's talking to, what information he's getting. We do need to know, but it could be big, it may not.
Okay, let's go back to the video now of the shooting. We're going to freeze it because we don't want to show you the entire shooting of when it happened. With everything you know today, looking at this video again, does it change anything you told us last night? Does it enlighten us in any other way?
It does, as far as that weapon. He fires that weapon, and it does not jam after the first shot. Yet he reaches up to rack that slide. He's not clearing a jam. He fires, racks, fires, racks.
Why would he do that?
Because it could be a very specific type of pistol that it's like a bolt action.
Like an older pistol?
Well, they have new ones that are made. You see, this looks like a silencer, which actually would be a suppressor, which is a less complicated silencer. A compressor. We call them cans.
Yeah.
But they make pistols with suppressors that are integral to the weapon.
Yeah.
Those weapons have to be racked for each shot. That's what that looks like, because when he fires that shot, it's not like he tries to fire a second time and the gun jams and then he reaches to the rack. He fires, racks, fires.
That seems like a complicated gun to use. Why would he use that gun?
It's nicknamed an assassin's pistol. It is the quietest.
It's nicknamed an assassin's pistol?
It's actually a VP. It's a veterinarian's pistol to put down an animal that is suffering. That's what it's made for.
Okay.
They call it this because it's the quietest gun you can use. Because of the integral suppressor. It's a rare weapon, and I understand they're backtracking to see who supplies it, who made recent purchases.
And we don't know this for sure yet.
Not at all. But from that video,
from what this is what you're thinking. Okay.
That gun doesn't jam. He reaches up and racks that slide. Tom, we've looked at the words on the bullets. Maybe he's doing it on purpose to jack out the live rounds that have the message. Maybe that's why he's racking it.
Right.
Or it could be a certain type of pistol that needs that to happen.
Yeah. John Monahan, always fascinating to talk to you. We thank you for that. We're going to talk to you probably again a lot in the coming days. We do want to stay on this story and continue on. Brian Thompson's shooting is raising a lot of questions about the motive, right? Especially with those bullets now. Many wondering if the suspect acted out of frustration with the health insurance industry in America. For more on this, we're going to go bring in Bertha Coombs, CNBC's senior healthcare reporter and a good friend to Top Story. Bertha, it's great to see you tonight. So talk to us first about this book that everyone's talking about, right? It's been getting a lot of attention, and some of the words inscribed on the bullets are similar to the title. What do we know about this, right? It's called Delay, Deny, Defend, and people have started to talk about this because it's a book about the healthcare industry?
It's a book about insurance overall, Tom. It was written by a retired law professor, Jay Feinman, back in 2010. In it, he talks about what essentially has become a business strategy, according to him, in the insurance industry overall. He says, quote, the company delays payment of a claim, denies all or part of a valid claim, or aggressively defends litigation that the policyholder is forced to bring in order to get that claim. Now, the book centers a lot on property insurers, but this issue of claims being denied is an increasingly hot-button issue when it comes to healthcare. It's one that doctors complain about because they have to file approvals. They get denied. It's created a lot of stress in the healthcare industry. Back in October, a Senate subcommittee on investigations issued a scathing report detailing mounting denials by Medicare Advantage players when it comes to nursing home and rehab care. Between 2019 and 2022, they said the rate of denials went from about 8.5% to nearly 23%. Yeah. And the report cites the big three in Medicare, Aetna, Humana, and UnitedHealth. Critics say a lot of those denials are increasing because of AI algorithms. In fact, we saw a couple of class action suits filed last year, one of them against Cigna, one of them against UnitedHealth's employer unit, employer healthcare unit, UMR, on that very issue.
Bertha, you know, we've seen an outpouring along these lines of what you're saying, an outpouring of hate online following the shooting. I want to pull up a graphic. Look at this. Out of 53 reactions to the official post about Thompson's murder from UnitedHealth Group, 48,000 are laughing reactions compared to just around 4,000 sad and heart reactions. And now take a look at this. There were thousands of posts across social media glorifying the incident, garnering 8.3 million views, 180,000 likes, and more than 24,000 retweets to a murder in cold blood. My question is this type of animosity normal? And do healthcare executives in the insurance industry receive threats often?
You know, I was talking with corporate security folks today, one of them from Kroll, who says that overall for executives that they all are increasingly receiving threats. And in healthcare, certainly that is true. We've seen instances of violence erupt in hospitals against hospital workers when people get very upset about care for their loved ones at times. Increasingly, insurers are starting to feel that ire again because of this issue of denial of care. But the fact that we've seen this murder happen certainly has pushed all of this into a whole new realm. And I can tell you that the security officials say a number of companies are now reaching out about security for their executives because publicly traded companies like this one publish their events. This was an event happening in Midtown Manhattan. It was an investor conference. It was public. People knew it was happening yesterday. And so when these events are published, as they must be for publicly traded companies, it creates more of a security risk that a lot of companies are now looking at much more closely.
Bertha, before you go, a lot of people have been tracking this other headline the last 24 hours. The healthcare company Anthem Blue Cross is moving away from a policy to limit the amount of anesthesia they would cover in surgeries. This broke yesterday. This comes after a lot of pushback from affected states and doctors, even from the American Society of Anesthesiologists. Could we see healthcare companies continue to move away from unfavorable policies like this because of what we just witnessed in New York City?
You know, it's a fascinating question. They're certainly under a lot of pressure over these issues in a regulatory sense, and not just over the health insurance companies, but a lot of these really big insurers like Aetna, which is part of CVS Health, UnitedHealth. They also deal with pharmacy benefits. And as you know, those are called PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. And those have been one area that has also been scrutinized a lot by regulators and under a lot of pressure as to claims that they contribute to the rising costs of drugs. So we are seeing a lot of pressure on these companies on a regulatory front. And in some cases, they are changing their business models to deal with these regulatory pressures. Certainly the shocking nature of what has happened here in New York City with this executive is giving a lot of people pause and will certainly ratchet up the discussions about their business practices.
Bertha Coombs, we thank you so much for joining Top Story. Learned a lot tonight.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.